One of my favourite exotics of all time, the hunter exotic boots, the Frosties, were brought into Destiny at the launch of Rise of Iron, but unfortunately were next to useless at the time. Like the Astrocide verse featured in the last episode, there was either a bug or at the very least a significant issue with the exotic at the time. The problem was that the exotic perk didn't seem to actually do anything, which, as you could imagine, is not how you want to introduce a new exotic into the game. Fortunately, the exotic perk was fixed, and now the Frosties are one of the strongest and flexible hunter exotics in the game. Starting with the perks, the Frosties can be re-rolled to have any of the special or heavy weapon ammo bonuses in the game. These perks are fine, but please Bungie, give hunters the overall special or heavy ammo node, promoting equality for all classes. Anyway, you can re-roll to whichever ammo type you like, but I like to go with sniper or rocket launcher ammo. And you can have this completely amazing double down perk which gives a minor boost to nothing in particular. But hey, you can re-roll to get this nothing perk in any element you want. The exotic perk gives a tighter turn radius while sprinting, and will cool down your melee and grenade ability while sprinting. So to translate that, the tighter turn radius allows you to make sharp turns while sprinting, even to the point of running on the spot, but the ability cooldown feature effectively halves the time it takes for both your grenade and melee charge to become available, assuming you are sprinting. These boots are actually entirely subclass neutral, so we have several different classes and builds to consider. Before I get into the builds, I rolled my Frosties for a 100% stat disc strength build, with rocket launcher ammo. I would recommend trying to get disc strength on these boots, and try for a 2-5-5 stat configuration. Since these boots are working exclusively with your abilities, I would make my builds all about the grenade and melee ability, since with the Frosties, you'll be getting your charges back in about 12 to 15 seconds. So we really need to look at each subclass's neutral game to see how viable it is with the Frosties. Up first is the Blade Dancer, and the grenade and melee attack are alright for both PvE and the Crucible. Running backstab and flux grenades will be pretty strong for a Crucible build, since the backstab will one-shot enemy guardians from behind, and flux grenades have always been a solid choice. Skip grenades would also be acceptable, but I would favour the Shinobu's Vow for a skip grenade build. Personally though, if I was going to play as a Blade Dancer, I'd be more inclined to use Fast Twitch, which allows your Blink Strike to cool down much more quickly anyway. Backstab is always nice when it works, but it's never something I particularly count on occurring. Since Fast Twitch pretty much acts as an intrinsic Frosties perk, I'd usually give the Blade Dancer with the Frosties a miss, but honestly, that Flux Grenade and Backstab build is very good. Up next is the Gunslinger, and again, there are intrinsic perks to help your abilities cool down more quickly, without you needing to use the Frosties. The Scavenger perk will grant some grenade and melee energy back for every box of ammo you pick up, something that happens fairly commonly. Since the Frosties would allow you to ignore this perk, running something like Gunslinger's Trance to gain excellent weapon stability for precision kills might be a reasonable choice. For the Crucible, I usually run Scavenger and Incendiary grenades, which aren't as good as they used to be, since the introduction of the Memory of Silima artifact, which reduces damage over time effects. I probably wouldn't recommend using the Frosties on a Gunslinger for either PvE or the Crucible actually, since Scavenger is going to work fine in PvE, and nerfs to Trip Mines and Incendiary's damage over time makes the neutral game so much less appealing to me. So now we have the Night Stalker, and you guessed it, it's definitely going to be the ultimate class for the Frosties. Having a 2-5-5 build with the infamous Wombo combo and Frosties can be a diabolical build at times, particularly since Envenomed Smoke Bombs, Void Wall Grenades, and Shade Step make for a very powerful and dynamic build. The fact that you have a ranged attack that deals damage in an area, and can trap you inside that area, and is available every 15 seconds or so, you will see why many top level Crucible players use the Night Stalker. I build my Night Stalker like this, with Black Hole Tethers and Lockdown, which you'll definitely want to have with a Wombo combo build. While I'm usually much more comfortable on a Blade Dancer, since using Blink Shotgun was my thing for a long time, the Night Stalker rapidly grew on me since the Frosties were introduced. Even though I don't particularly rate the Tether super in the Crucible, since in my experience, every time I try to snap a super user with my tether, I either completely whiff the shot, or it suppresses the enemy after they've already killed me, so what was the point? It definitely has its moments though, so I would probably still insist on using a 2-5-5 build instead of forfeiting my super for 2 grenade and melee charges via the Memory of Felwinter. So obviously, the Night Stalker and Frosty combo is great in the Crucible, but is also very decent in PvE. Sprinting is something that everyone does all the time, so to be rewarded for it seems like a win-win. Of course, there are going to be some situations where you are mostly stationary, like in the Vault of Glass Conflux phase or the Wrath of the Machine Vosic phase, where the Frosties probably wouldn't be as effective as something like the Sealed Ahamkara Grasps. But for a majority of PvE content, such as Strikes, Prison of Elders, story missions, and definitely parts of all raids, the Frosties are an outstanding exotic, and continue to be my favourite piece of exotic armour in Destiny. So I hope you were able to take something away from all of this. I hate asking, but if you like this sort of content, feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.